Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector and the host of the Go Collect Speculation video. In this episode, we are going to spend some time talking about 6 blog posts that have been sent in to Go Collect. This first blogger does something that I think is really cool. This second blog post is actually near and dear to my heart. So this next blog post is right up my alley. I want to play a game. The MCU has done some pretty interesting things, right, folks? Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector and the host of the Go Collect Speculation video. In this episode, we're going to spend some time talking about 6 blog posts that have been sent in to Go Collect. This first blogger does something that I think is really cool. This second blog post is actually near and dear to my heart. So this next blog post is right up my alley. I want to play again. The MCU has done some pretty interesting things, right, folks? Over at Go Collect, it's all about more than meeting the eye. You attention, get ahead of the curve, and we all know that.
Ready for what? You see if he.
While we are on this topic of Spider-Man, we have to acknowledge the elephant is in the room. The elephant is Miles Morales, a 3.5 soul. So there we have reached the end of another Go Collect recap. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll tune in next week.
Welcome, everyone, to Wizard World Virtual Experiences. I'm Jerry Milani, and this is going to be a fun night for baseball fans. If you have been a Yankees or Mets fan or any kind of baseball fan the last, 50 years or so, we've got something for you tonight, and we hope that you enjoy this chat with some of the baseball greats from New York over the past few decades. So whether you're watching on Twitch or Facebook or YouTube, go on into that chat room right now and ask your questions. We'll take the best ones and get as many of them as we can get in the next 45 minutes or so. But again, we appreciate you being with us today on Wizard World Virtual Experiences for our New York Talkin' Baseball. We've had a big baseball week this week. Yesterday, we had the Stratomatic All-Star Game with Drew Carey and Slim Jim Phantom playing against each other, and that was really a fun time. And tomorrow we're going to have the 69 Mets here, Ed Kranepool and Ron Swoboda as two of the 69 Mets. We're going to have them. And also tomorrow at 7 o'clock, the Whiz Quiz Nerd Trivia will be going on. You'll enjoy that. And Saturday, Sons of Anarchy at 1 o'clock. And then next Wednesday, we have Charles Learson, who baseball fans might know him as the author of the Cobb biography a couple years ago of Ty Cobb. And he's actually the author now of a new book on Butch Cassidy that's come out. So hopefully you guys can tune in for that. And we aren't going to go quite as far back as Ty Cobb today, but we have some of the great baseball legends of Yankees and Mets lore over the past 50 years here with us tonight. I want to just quickly remind everyone that the opportunity for live video chats with any or all of our guests are available. You can go to Wizard World Virtual and learn all about those. Also autographs, which are a bonus, whether you get a live video chat or a recorded video from any of our stars tonight, you'll get an autograph as a bonus free with that. So that's a nice package that these guys have agreed to do. And I hope you take advantage of that. You can go again to wizardworldvirtual.com for all of that. Also, one of our big partners is one of our great friends at Go Collect. Go Collect is your number one source for collectibles. They track the sales of graded comics and have robust analysis tools for their users. They stay active on social media, have giveaways every week. Go Collect also an expansive blog with topics on comic book speculations, video games, concert posters. They're going to have price guides for those coming out very soon as well. Go Collect's goal is very simple: make collecting better. If you love baseball cards, they've got those as well. So be sure to check them out at gocollect.com. So what have we got going tonight? We have three of, as I said, the great legends of New York baseball over the past few decades. First, he's among the short list of the greatest left fielders in Yankee history, a key contributor on the 1977 and 1978 championship teams. He capped a solid 15-year career in the major leagues, all in the Bronx. He hit 160 home runs, stole 233 bases, all in pinstripes. Please welcome the great Roy White. Roy, how you doing? Oh, looks like they need to turn your audio on there. Have they let you? We can't. Yeah, there you go. Roy, how you doing tonight?
I'm good.
Excellent, excellent.
Nice to see you.
Same here. All right. Currently the director of athletics at Sacred Heart University. He played 10 years in the major leagues, served as manager for 16 years in the majors, including 7 with the Mets. He led them to the 2000 National League pennant, as well as 536 victories. Here is the great Bobby V, Bobby Valentine.
Good to see you. I hope everything's well, and I hope you could see me too.
We do indeed. Welcome in, Bobby. Thanks so much for taking what's, I know, a very busy time for you with everything going on in athletics and college athletics to spend some time with fans. You know, we appreciate it, and so do they.
Cool.
Finally, in addition to hitting one of the most dramatic home runs in New York Yankees history in 1996 World Series, which followed up a pretty dramatic home run in the 1995 playoffs as well, several other postseason heroics. He earned 3 World Series rings. He hit 90 career home runs in 11 years. 9 of those came with the Yankees. Here's the king, Jim Leyritz. There he is.
What's happening, guys? How you doing?
Welcome in. How are you?
I'm good. I just got off the boat.
We heard there's some boating today. Tell us about this. This is great.
Yes, we were in Arizona. We were out on Lake Pleasant in a pontoon boat, and you caught me just as we came off the thing.
They have boats in Arizona? That's amazing.
And I say,
No
it's
water,
not
but a lot
ocean.
of boats.
Exactly.
Right, you're a little dry dock today. Well, listen,
Exactly.
you guys, appreciate you being with us again. This is for fans of New York baseball. This is three of the greats, and we just appreciate you being with us today. And I wanted to just, from the Wizard World family and from all baseball fandom, just kind of say thank you. And we're going to have a fun time tonight. So wanted to start by asking you guys, and again, feel free to discuss it with each other as well. As players, or Bobby as a manager, how would you guys be handling what's going on today? If you were a player today and you had early July to next week to get ready for this season, what would you guys be doing? What would your different would be for you this year?
Go for it, guys.
I'll tell you what it was. I think it would be pretty tough. It's a pretty tough situation to be in. And you've got to make that decision on whether you want to go out and play under the present conditions with the pandemic, or opt out, as a few players have done, over concern for the health of their families and whatever. So I don't know what decision I would have made at this time, if I was presented with that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a difficult position for players to be in. I think the bottom line is if you have family, and that, the kids are a little bit older, and or you're just married with no kids, that, to give your wife a kiss and say, hey, I'll see you in 3 or 4 months. I'm going to go make $8 million real quick for 60 games. I think my wife would understand, but I do understand what guys like Mike Trout, who's having his first baby in August, and other guys that have children that have, underlying conditions. It might be a tough decision for those guys to make, but I think it was important for Major League Baseball to do something and at least try to give the fans something to cheer about this year.
And Bobby, as a manager, how would you approach that?
Well, player manager, I have no idea. There's so much uncertainty that the one thing that athletes are able to do, they're able to adjust, they're able to pivot. And right now, I wouldn't be trying to lead in any one direction. I'd be leading toward the finish of the season and playing the last game of the season. But I'd be very willing to make any and all adjustments that need to be made. And I'd ask my players to be ready to be, ready to adjust on the fly, because it's not going to be an easy situation.
Well, that's the second. Go ahead.
The problem is that we all love baseball so much. We've been doing it since we were, 12 years old. And that's been our whole lives for a lot of us, is revolved around baseball. And that's what makes it such a difficult decision. We like to be out there playing and competing.
Well, and I think, all three of us, we've been part of a strike. We've been part of a strike before. And we know how much, after the strike was over with, how much we were just dying to get back on the field. I have to imagine that's what these guys are thinking right now, as far as wanting to get back to playing baseball again.
And as a 60-game season instead of a full 162, how would your preparation specifically for that be different if you knew, all right, we've got 60 games and then the potential playoffs?
It used to be 60 games. I used to say I need 60 games to know what kind of team I have and to know what kind of opposition I have around the league. And now they're asking these managers, and how about the first-year managers, or how about how wonderful the situation is for the Houston Astros? They don't have to answer a question. You talk about dodging a bullet. But, I don't know how you prepare people for a sprint like this and teams for a sprint like this. It's probably a good place for young players to be, because they'll be doing things for the first time, or maybe the second time. I think for the older dogs, and we're all old dogs now, guys, you know what I mean? We like a little more routine. You like to know that you're doing what you did in the past that made you successful. Well, no one's done this in the past. And I don't know how the heck you're going to get through it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Bobby, you're right. I think when you prepare for 162 games, it's a lot different. And And again, you look at the teams on paper, the New York Yankees, the New York Mets, whatever, they may look like a good team over a 162 game schedule, but in a 60 game schedule, anything can happen, and especially like you said, these young players who are out to prove something and are a little bit more physically in shape or a little bit physical and not beat up as much as the older players. They may have an advantage of getting off to a quicker start than the older player who knows that, okay, if I get off to a slow start, I can always make it up in July and August and September. And you're not going to have that ability to do that this year.
Yeah, you're right.
Go with the young players. Go with the young team.
Right.
Yeah.
I know that I never
go with them.
Sometimes it takes 15 or 20 games to get going. I never was a real good, April player. I like to get to the warm weather, to really heat up. So the first couple of weeks of the season, could be a sub 200 batting average sometimes. Yeah. So now you're faced where you really got to get out of the gate well. So that's tough for you to get ready for that.
Well, I think a question that I want to ask Bobby is, Bobby, how would you be preparing differently as a National League manager, knowing that you have a DH?
Well, I think most National League managers or whatever, all managers have managed with the DH.
Right.
I think it's an easier situation, obviously, because you're going to get more reps for more players on a regular basis. And the problem is, Jim, the problem this year is 60 games is one, check it off. But the other one, I think, which is uncharted waters, obviously, is this idea of relief pitcher pitching to three hitters. I think it's hard enough when the manager has things figured out that when you come up, I know who's coming up, who's coming in. And then maybe the guy behind you, I could switch out. Now you're looking at three hitters minimum. I think it's almost impossible to make the right move unless you have guys who are just outstanding pitchers in the bullpen who can get both sides of the plate out, and then you don't have anything to worry about. But there aren't that many guys like that out there.
So all of you have been part of New York baseball at times when it's been the biggest thing going in the sports world here, whether it's the 70s and those championship teams with Roy and Bobby with those great Mets teams and Jim. What is it about the New York baseball scene and that's different than other places? And Bobby and Jim, you've experienced it playing and managing in other places. What's different about the New York fan, the New York experience for baseball?
Well, the New York fans, no doubt, demand more from you, because they've seen the Yankee history and the great teams, and they expect excellence. So you're really under some very watchful eyes when you come in to play in New York, and when you make a mistake, it's really magnified there. So I think there's more pressure on ball players that play in the New York arena, and guys that get traded to the Yankees. A lot of times they have a problem adjusting to that. So I think it's tougher than any other place to go into, play baseball.
Yeah, I think I think number one, the media is there's nothing like the media, but there's also nothing like a New York Yankee fan that expects every at bat for you to do something, to be ready, to come through for them. And after playing in a few other different places. I really kind of, as a player myself, I enjoyed when a fan would yell at me, going, "Come on, Leyritz, do something!" I liked that kind of motivation. But playing in San Diego and some other places, even though there were great fans, it was like, "Oh, you went 0 for 4. Go get them tomorrow, Jimmy." And I'm like, "Wait, no, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear that I stink and that I need to go out and play harder." But and then again, the media. And unfortunately, playing for the New York Yankees, and Bobby, you know it with the Mets when you guys had the big teams back then. If you don't win the World Series, it's not considered a very good year.
Yeah, regretfully, and there is more in New York. There's more of everything. Roy said it. There's more of everything. More press, more fans, more expectation, more people who bet on the game. More people who are leather-lung fans, more people who think that they actually own the team or that actually belonged to them. Yeah, and that betting thing. I think I always felt it in New York. I felt it in Philadelphia too. Like Jim, you said when a guy said, "Come on, Leyritz, do something." But what did you really think of him after you came back after popping up with the man on third base with what he said to you then?
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, yeah,
that's where it's a little different. What they say to you after. I always like the one where I'd go out to take out a pitcher, and before I get to the dugout, he'd throw a home run ball, and I'd hear 40 guys, telling me exactly what I shouldn't have done and what I should do next time. It's an amazing place to play and manage and be part of.
Yeah, Yankee fans have seen Ruth, Gehrig, DiMaggio, Mantle. So they've
White,
seen the
Leyritz, yeah. Yeah.
Hey, I didn't even know you played for the Mets a little bit.
Yeah, they've seen.
I see you with a card with a Met uniform on.
So for Roy and Bobby, in addition to your success in New York and Bobby other places, you guys then went, Roy was at the end of your career, and then Bobby, it was in between managing. You went to Japan. Talk about the Japanese experience, what kind of brought you out there, and what you took from it when you came back.
Well, you know what? I helped Bobby get over to Japan and to become a manager, actually, because after I left the Yankees and played in Japan, and I made a lot of friendships. I played with Sadahara O, and they had an organization called the World Baseball Organization, and they started to do some clinics in Japan. And I had a friend over there that was in contact with him, and he called me to help put together a team to go to Japan, to give some baseball clinics. And they also wanted a manager. And I talked to Bobby, and Bobby agreed to go over. And he met one of the executives of the World Baseball Association. His last name was Hiroka. And later, Hiroka hired him to be a manager over there. But the baseball experience for me was great in Japan. I loved it. I loved playing the game over there. I made some great friendships. It was still baseball. It was a little different from baseball in the States. They weren't as aggressive. The speed of the game wasn't as fast as Major League, and the power wasn't there. But all in all, it was a very rewarding experience for me.
Roy, and 868 home runs later, Sadahara retired. Just tell people what you thought of that, even though you saw him at the end of his career. What you think of that guy?
No, he was really a great human being. I never saw him turn down an autograph. He spoke a little bit of English, so I had a lot of conversations with him. And that first year that I was over there was his last season. He hit 31 homers. I think I hit 29, my high as a professional. And after a game one day, and we're in the shower. Well, they didn't have the showers over there. They had the Japanese bath, and we're sitting there talking. And he says, Roy-san, I'm going to have to retire after this season. I used to hit 45 or 50. Now I'm down to 30, and the bat speed isn't there, and I can't go out there and perform for the fans like I used to. So he retired after really having a pretty good season. But really a great gentleman, a great human being, and I'm happy. I usually say to people that I had the pleasure of batting cleanup behind Mickey Mantle, and I hit cleanup behind Sadahara O, two of the greatest home run hitters in baseball history. So that's a big thrill for me.
Yeah. Were you there when he managed too? Was that your last year there?
No, Hiroka was a manager. He was like an assistant manager my last two seasons over there. Then after I left, he became manager then. Right.
Yeah, bro, I always thank you for that. It was 1986. Went over for the Japanese U.S. Baseball Summit, and that was basically the beginning, my introduction. Yeah.
Right.
10 years later, I was managing there. Amazing.
Right. That was a great experience doing the baseball clinics for all the children's from all over.
Oh yeah. Hey, and one swing and miss, by the way, this year with this shortened season was that people didn't think far enough to think that maybe this was the year to have a real World Series. That people will not get enough of baseball in the 60-game schedule and just the playoffs. The players aren't going to be tired at the end of the season. That maybe this was a time that we could just put the winning team on a plane and go over and play against, the winner of the Japanese League for a true World Series. Even though if we lost, we could always say, hey, it wasn't a real season and never play again. But it would give more baseball and give this season, which is unique in itself, a unique kind of check mark, not just that it's shortened and it's not what it used to be, that it could be actually something different and better than it used to be.
No, that's a great idea.
I think that's a swing and miss.
Because I think
Bobby's like a baseball fan, right? He wants more baseball. That's what we all want. And Jim,
that's all I want.
And Jim, you were the kind of player that fans love. You were going to play and play and play until they tore the uniform off you. And if that meant going to play in Newark, 10 miles from me, or in Mexico, what made you want to play until no one called you again?
You know what? My father told me in Double-A, I was in Double-A, first game of the season in 1988. I got hit in the face with a pitch during a winter storm. I couldn't even see the ball. It hit me in the face, knocked out a bunch of teeth. 2 weeks later, I tore ligaments in my ankle. And I remember calling home to my dad saying, you know what? I can't do this. I'm coming home. And my dad looked at me and said, son, you don't quit till they take that uniform and they tell you you can't play anymore. And honestly, that's what I did. I kept playing and playing. And, whether it was Newark, whether it was Mexico, whether it was Puerto Rico, I was going to keep trying to get back to the big leagues if I could. And, it was finally one day, I had to make a decision, either giving up custody of my boys or playing baseball. And I decided to quit baseball and take custody of my boys in 2004.
Yeah. So hopefully fans are enjoying so far our Q&A. We're getting some great insight from these guys and really enjoying this, but also the extra opportunities are there for you. If you want those private one-on-one video chats, those will be available at wizardworldvirtual.com. Just go to those. And now for Jim and for Roy, those are going to be Monday at 1:00. So if you're watching this on replay, you still have some time. Monday at 1:00 Eastern time. For Bobby, those are going to be tonight at 8:00. So go to Wizard World Virtual if you want those. Also opportunities for the video recordings. We'll keep those up a few more days, but those live video chats, which are a lot of fun, you'll want to hop into those. You want to get those right away. Another question. We have some questions from some fans. We have people from all over who are on our Twitch, our Facebook, our YouTube. If you're watching on any of those, I want to throw your questions in there. Go ahead and do that. We have a question from Brian Balloff. Brian wants to know if you guys ever played a good prank on a teammate, like a hot foot. Who were the pranksters among you guys?
Well, I'll start off. I'll answer that first. I was one of those guys that, unfortunately, I always wanted to be a pain in my manager's butt because they wouldn't put me in the lineup. So I was going to do things like crawl under the bench and light guys' feet on fire. And I actually did it. My best prank ever was, and Bobby and Roy, you'll know this, the old Milwaukee Stadium. I climbed up in Bernie Brewer's tower, and when we hit a home run, I slid down the slide. So that was probably one of my best pranks.
Does Seelig have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I got fined $500 for it, but it was worth it.
Roy, you don't seem like the prank guy, but Sparky Lyle was a good prankster.
Yeah, we had Fritz Peterson. I'm still finding out about things that he did that I didn't know about. But we were on a plane coming back from a road trip, and he circulated a note around the plane saying that any guys that wanted to go to Japan in the off season to sign, that there was going to be a tour and that the Yankees were going on it. So everybody believed it and was signing their names to go on this trip, and that everybody was going to get $15,000, which was big back in those days. Pocket change, and it turned out it was Fritz, so he had the last laugh. And
I used to like the April Fool I used to like the April Fool's Day. One time I got Larry Parrish to put on his entire uniform, go down to the mall in Port Charlotte, and go into the sporting goods store thinking they were waiting for him to have an autograph session. And when he got there, they didn't have any idea why he was there. Once on April Fool's, I called in a guy named Gino Petrali, and Gino worked his butt off to make the team. And, it's April 1st, we're leaving April 2nd. And I called him in, told him what a great job he did, and that I was up all night arguing with the general manager, but we just sold his contract to Japan. And he broke down into tears, and I had the camera running behind me. I said, well, listen, you still have time. Run through the clubhouse and go out there to his office and try to talk your way out of it. Maybe you can still stay here. We have a spot on the roster. And as he left my office to go into the clubhouse, all the guys were there to give him the big April Fool's yell. So,
that's a good one.
You got to have a few laughs. My God, it's all serious business, those 162 days. You know what I mean?
That's funny.
Those are fun. So Roy and Jim, you guys were not just part of the championship Yankees teams, but you were guys that started with the Yankees when they were building. How satisfying was it for you to start on the teams that needed to kind of rebuild and get it together and then be there and be big parts of what happened when you were champions?
No, that was great. Actually, I was one of Jimmy's first coaches when he was a rookie coming up through the minor leagues. And he was a switch hitter at that time. And I remember telling him, I said, hey, you can get to the big leagues quickly as a switch hitting catcher, to be a good offensive guy, that you didn't have to be that good defensively. So he didn't take my advice, so he stayed on the right side. It worked out well for him. But I think that's one of the things that I'm most proud of as a baseball player, that I could say I'm a lifetime Yankee, that I signed with him as a kid, went through the whole minor league system, and spent my whole career with the New York Yankees. And not a lot of guys could say that. So that's probably one of the most things that I'm proud of.
Yeah, and for me, being in the minor leagues the first 4 years, and then of course coming to the Yankees in 1990 when we weren't very good, we were losing 93, 94 games, and then to be there in 96 as the most tenured player on the team, because Don Mattingly just retired, I became the senior member of the team. And for us to go on and win that year after losing the heartbreaker in 95 and losing the opportunity in 94 to get to the World Series, to be able to do that in 96, to be part of that and be there from the first 11 years, it was pretty proud of to be part of that 96 team.
And Bobby, you can look at stats and there's all kinds of numbers and stuff that say that 2000 Mets team should have won about 87 or 88 games. But yet you won 94 and you're in the World Series. How did you get the most out of that team? But you got the most out of almost every team you managed.
Well, I don't know if I did, but, I had a great group of guys in 2000, and I think they were very talented too. The 97 team prior to that was the first Met team since 1990 to get over 500. So a lot of those guys were in that same mode of building, going from the worst to first. And it was fun seeing it all happen. It was all fun, winning 97 games in 99, I think, only to have a one-game playoff with Cincinnati to win the wild card. And in those days, if you won the wild card, you weren't even allowed to celebrate because playoffs. And now there's like 5 teams who have celebrations with champagne, and they haven't won anything yet, or 8 teams, I guess. So it was all fun seeing things come. And the 2000 team, this is the 20th year anniversary. The university that I work at, Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut, we're going to have this huge gala, try to raise a couple $1 million, bringing in Joe Torre and a lot of the guys from the Yankees, a lot of guys from the Mets. And obviously, we're going to have to do it on Zoom now. So we're going to figure out how we're going to raise some funds for the underserved high school kids in the Fairfield County area. It should be good if we hook it up right with the Jackie Robinson Foundation. Maybe we'll still have a success. But watching things build is probably as much fun as winning a championship. Almost as much fun as winning a world championship.
And how can fans learn more about that if they want to just go to the website at Sacred Heart Athletics?
Yeah, we'll start getting the word out real soon. We're ready to tie a bow around that. Thank you very much.
Great. Roy, speaking of champions, those 77, 78 teams, they had quite a cast of characters there, the Bronx Zoo and everything. How did all those disparate characters that came from different places and came together, how did you manage to win when it looked like everybody was fighting with each other?
Well, once we got on the field, it was a team, and everybody played their roles. We had guys that could hit singles and doubles, and we had a few guys that could hit home runs. And we played good defense, and we had pitching and good relief. And we were just tough, gritty ball clubs, guys that really played hard, that were real gamers. So those were fun teams. And I enjoyed it because I spent like my first 10 years never getting in a World Series. It took me 11 years after joining the Yankees in 1965, and it took to 1976 to finally get into a World Series. After I thought I was going to be in the World Series every year, when I first got there, because Ford and Maris and Mantle, all those guys were still there, but they were on the decline, and nobody kind of really realized it. So it was really fun, that 77 and 78, great guys and great memories.
Jim, we have a question from a fan. Jay Ori would like to know your thoughts on your mindset in that 96 World Series. Were you waiting off speed on the home run? What were your thoughts in that at bat?
No, as a matter of fact, one of the biggest knocks against me was I was not a big guy reading the statistics, and I went more by the feel of the game, by watching a player, how he would react to certain pitches that we would throw. For me, myself, I didn't even know that Mark Wohlers had a split-fingered pitch. I only thought he had a fastball slider. And when I went up to bat with Darryl Strawberry's bat, because I didn't want to break one of mine, I asked Don Zimmer, I said, Zim, what's this guy got? And Zim goes, Jimmy, he throws 100 miles an hour. Get ready. And that's basically all I knew. Yeah. So thank God he hung the slider.
Well, it went out faster than 100 miles. The Bobby Valentine Army has a question, but it's for everyone. They'd like to know which teams you think are going to surprise in 2020, or if you just want to talk about the Yankees and the Mets prospects, or what you think might happen in this crazy little season we may have.
Well, that's a lot of questions. Health will be determine whether the Yankees and the Mets are doing what they should do. But I did say earlier, the young teams. There's a young team over in Chicago. There's a young on the south side, not on the north side. Young team down in Tampa Bay. It seems like they're always young. I think that guys who haven't detached themselves too much from college and too much from travel ball understand this package of 60 games. It's basically what you play in college. And, I think they're the ones that are going to understand what's going on here better. And if they have the talent, some of these teams have good young talent, I think they're going to take off.
You guys?
Yeah, I would agree that I think even a team like Toronto with some of these, with some of these young studs and these kids that are out to prove something, and they've got 1 year under their belt now, and it's not completely unfamiliar territory. And they're like you said, they're young and they're healthy. So I think a team like that could surprise a lot of people too.
Yeah, and you don't know about it when you're playing against those guys. The book, as we used to say, isn't written yet. So you don't know how to get them out and what the weakness is. You might know when the postseason comes, but that'll be 250 at-bats later.
Yeah, I think the Yankees will still be tough. They're not an old ball club like they used to be 4 or 5 years ago. They've got youth now. And adding Jarrett Cole is a big plus for them. So I think they'll be in it all the way.
They should be.
We have another fan question. This one from @Tio Gennaro. Tio wants to know, Roy, what do you remember about the Roy White Knish at Yankee Stadium in the 70s? You never know what questions you're going to get.
I know I had a refrigerator full of them. Yeah, I did an ad for Cohen's Knishes. So my picture was on a poster eating a Knish with a big Knish in my hand. And I think I got paid $1,000 in all the Knishes I could eat. So,
use them as doorstops or what?
Yeah.
Multicultural, Roy, the multicultural guy. Yeah.
So it was fun. I didn't make any great money or anything, but nobody did in those days hardly. So what's the difference there?
So Roy had talked about the Yankee teams of the late 70s. Jim, your teams, it felt like they were all business. You were a senior member of those teams. How did the all business persona of you and Bernie Williams and Tino Martinez make that team a winner?
Well, I think the leadership that Joe Torre had with that ball club was key. Buck Showalter and Gene Michael started and put that team together. But I think the leadership that Joe brought in, the calmness that kind of he let us police our own clubhouse. But yet when there was time to speak, he spoke up. And then of course the coaching staff that Joe put behind him with Zimmer and Chambliss and Willie Randolph and Mel Stoudemire. I think as a manager, that was probably his best decision that he ever made. Because I think he knew if I don't have success this time, this is probably my last shot. And I think that was a big difference of those teams in the 90s, that type of leadership that they had.
Hey, Jim, tell everybody who's watching that you're not driving your car. You're sitting in the back seat. Will you let them know?
Yes, I'm in the back seat. My daughter's driving. My wife's in the front seat. So I'm not that talented.
We've had one or two of these virtual experiences be a little bit too much driving involved. So we're really pleased with that. We have a few minutes left. I want to again remind everyone that this free Q&A is outstanding, and these are great things. If there's other questions and things that you have, those individual chats that you can get with these great stars they're available. Both Jim and Roy will be doing those on Monday at 1:00. Bobby will be doing his immediately after at 8:00 Eastern tonight. So go to Wizard World Virtual right now if you're interested in one of those, and you get a free autograph photo as a bonus. A question for everyone here. Who are some of your favorite teammates in your career? And for Bobby, that can be teammates and players that you managed. Some of your favorite teamates and why.
Go ahead, Bobby.
Okay, yeah, I could start. I had a lot of favorites, but probably my first roommate and teammate was Tom Paciorek. He's still one of my best friends. He graduated from University of Houston. I graduated from Ripwalm High School. We were together in Ogden, Utah in 1968. And then if you fast forward to 1986 or 7, I'm now managing the Texas Rangers, and I got to release my first roommate. So not only was he my best teammate, but he's my favorite player I ever had. And regretfully, I released him. And the day I released him, guys, he went 2 for 4 against Mark Langston with a home run double and 3 RBIs. Go figure.
Go ahead, Roy.
Yeah, I would say my first roommate too. My first roommate was Horace Clark. And he came up as a second baseman. I actually came up as a second baseman to the Yankees, and we roomed together for the time that he was there. And we both had a love of jazz music. So we would bring our records. Back then, we still had the 45s and the 78s, and I would bring my jazz collection, and Horace would bring his, and we would spend our hours before we went to the ballpark enjoying jazz music and talking about some of the guys that produced that music. So he was a great teammate. Later on, Chris Chambliss, Lou Piniella, Mickey Rivers, they were all great friends. And we all had a love of horse racing. So on our spare time before a night game, we like to go to the track, have lunch, watch some races, and then get back to the ballpark. But most of the time we discuss baseball when we were at the racetrack. So those guys are great guys and great teammates.
And Jim?
Yeah. For me, it was, it's an easy question. Every time I get the same answer. I played with him for 5 years. Probably one of the best, biggest Yankees at that time. Don Mattingly was my favorite teammate ever. Just a great all-around guy. Even when he was hurt and I was playing his position, taking his place, he would come to batting practice, or he'd come out to where I was taking ground balls and try to help me and try to give me different tips on what to do. And you just didn't find that with a lot of guys that were superstars like he was. And I always respected that as a teammate and as somebody that had so much respect for the game. Donnie was one of my favorites.
That's great.
Yeah, Don Mattingly is one of the greatest hitters I ever saw for 6 years. His bat speed and the power, he was as good as any.
I was trying to manage against that team those days. And when he had his home run streak, remember when he hit 8 in a row, 8 games in a row? I think 3 or 4 of them were against our team. Then he was spectacular. He really was spectacular.
Yeah, I think the last game, the way he hit it when he tied the record was in Texas. Yes.
Yep.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
So, I know we could spend all night here. I know I could spend all night here, but we can't. If you guys want to each just kind of talk about something, either you're working on now, a project, a charity, anything, the forum's open for each of you.
Go ahead, Bobby.
No, I'm working on a lot of stuff, but one thing is I have a whole bunch of friends and people I work with are going to New Zealand, going to film a movie called The Greatest Beer Run Ever. Peter Farley, the Oscar-winning director of Green Book, is going to direct it. My president of my company is going to produce it, Andrew Moscato, and look forward to that in the next film season. It's called The Greatest Beer Run Ever. Yeah.
Go ahead, Roy.
Yeah, well, I have a foundation, Roy White Foundation, and the mission of our foundation is to help kids go to college, so that anybody that could donate, it would really help us, because it's really been tough. We don't have anything to give out this year, any scholarships, because we haven't been able to get any money. All of our fundraisers had to be canceled. So if anybody would like to donate, just go to roywhitefoundation.org and press the donate button, and we'd appreciate anything we can get.
That's great, Roy. Jim?
Yeah, and for me, I'm hoping baseball starts up again, because that's the only work that we were really doing back at Yankee Stadium. But I'm still part of the Pink Tie Foundation in Long Island. Still support them, and I'm also part of a teen project foundation out in California for sexually trafficked women, and it's called the Teen Project, and we're out raising money for them every day, and just trying to do as much foundation and charity work as I could possibly do during this time with what we're able to do.
Roy White, Bobby Valentine, Jim Leyritz, 3 great New York baseball heroes over the past several decades. We don't have to talk about how many it is, several decades. Thanks so much for being with us tonight here on Wizard World Virtual Experiences. I know the fans in the chat rooms have been enjoying it. So guys, thank you so much for being with us. And fans, don't forget that if you are interested in those recorded videos with these celebrities or with the live chats, go right now to Wizard World Virtual. It's your opportunity right now to get a little extra time with these guys and ask a few of the things that we didn't get a chance to get to. Don't forget tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock. If you're here today, you're going to want to be here tomorrow at 4 o'clock as well. It's the 69 Mets. It's Ed Kranepool and Ron Swoboda right here at Wizard World Virtual Experiences. That's going to be a fun time. Followed tomorrow night by Whiz Quiz Nerd Trivia with our own Mike G. For Bobby Valentine, Roy White, and Jim Leyritz, I'm Jerry Milani. Thanks so much for joining us tonight on Wizard World Virtual Experiences. Have a great night.
Having us on. Thank you. Good to see you guys, man.
All right, man. Good seeing you guys.
Good seeing you, Roy.
Wear a mask.
Thanks, guys.
Stay safe.
Bye.